Sweet, we are back. We're back, and hopefully, hopefully the buttons are working. So we'll see. Let's continue, guys. Welcome back, and bless the Rockfin gods for letting me start another stream on Rockfin. We are going on Rockfin. Part 2 is on and cracking. Let's keep going. So we're reading about the global wealthy, the rich. I wanted to show you this graph because it's so damn good. Hold on one second. Hopefully that works. Hopefully y'all can see this. Yeah, so this is U.S. household emissions by household income, expressed in terms of tons of carbon dioxide per year. Yes, you can see this. That's good. Okay. And yeah, as you can see, the more money, more emissions. More money, more emissions. But above $100,000, you are cranking. You are above. I mean, above 70,000, you're above 50 tons a year. So maybe maybe 70,000 is too much. I don't know. Yeah. All that being said, I'm all for the rich being curtailed in their activities. I just don't see how that's going to happen. I don't see how that's going to happen. Interesting tweet from Roger Hallam. Africa is already feeling the disproportionate impact of climate change. Act urgently as your life depends on it. Act with the youth of the global south. So he's drawing attention to a Ugandan activist, Vanessa Nakate. Calling for climate action in Africa is our responsibility. Nakate tells Global Citizen why the eyes of the world need to be on the Congo Basin. Africa produces just 2 to 3% of the world's carbon emissions, yet the continent is the most vulnerable to climate change, and its effects are already being felt. From unpredictable and extreme weather like droughts, floods, and cyclones to humanitarian crises like malnutrition and hunger, it is becoming increasingly urgent for Africa to make a stand for climate action. This is why Ugandan climate activist Vanessa Nakate, 23, started her one-woman protest in her city, Kampala, to bring attention to the effects of climate change in her country and around Africa. Nakate has made international news in January after she was cropped out of an AP news agency photo with European climate activists at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Yeah, I don't know if you all remember that story. Nakate felt the incident fit into a broader pattern of systemic racism and determined to speak out against it. While white activists are often celebrated, black activists are often ignored, and their efforts go largely underappreciated. She says, I started my activism in January 2019 because the environment is our life, and our existence heavily depends on our environment, because when it's not healthy, we cannot survive as humans. While the environment does everything for us, all it asks from us is that we take care of it. For instance, if we cut down our trees, there will be none to absorb carbon dioxide, which is one of the greenhouse gases that cause global warming. My advocacy is based on the understanding that our environment is our inheritance, and we have to protect it or we face consequences. Listen to the children. Listen to the children. Listen to the youth. She's not a child, but she's young, a young person. We'd rather act now, as we can't keep watching more people die as a result of climate change. The Congo Basin is the second largest rainforest in the world, with incredible biodiversity that includes over 10,000 species of plants and 1,000 species of birds. Meanwhile, The okapi, which is also known as the forest giraffe, can only be found in the Congo rainforest. This forest, which spans the Democratic Republic of Congo, with smaller portions in Gabon, Republic of Congo, Cameroon, Central African Republic, and Equatorial Guinea, represents Africa and all the nature that holds Africa together. She tweets, "The Amazon burns and the whole world talks about it. California burns and the whole world talks about it. Congo rainforest burns and a young girl talks about it. People are actually dying in Africa. But if these news companies don't talk about the fires in Africa, it is sad." Even though the Congo rainforest is the second biggest in the world, not everyone knows that it exists. I started thinking about ways of bringing the forest to the attention of the world, especially Africa, when it caught fire in 2019. And if you all remember that, yes, during the large attention to the Amazonian wildfires in 2019, people were posting visuals, like nighttime visuals of the world burning, the globe burning, and how there were much larger fires going on in Africa than even in the Amazon. And yes, people were not talking about it, except for the people that were posting these visuals, you know, like, hey, we also have some pretty large fires in Africa going on as well. And she's also speaking of the locust invasion that has been happening, ongoing in Africa. This is from February 2020, breaking news. The locust invasion is in Uganda now. Locusts have started landing in the Kalita Amudat district. The Congo is also home to the black colobus, which is one of the most endangered monkey species in the world. %20 of the Amazon is now a carbon source, not a sink. Somebody was tweeting that out. And only a matter of time before that happens to the Congo as well. Let's keep it moving. Of course, it's getting later and later. I'm trying to get into this very quickly. This is a shout out for my sister. My sister is just ending her occupation with UC Riverside, and she worked with the extension program, administrating extension program at UC Riverside. So this is just a shout out to people in the area, Southern California, or I mean, it's actually, you can attend this worldwide. This is open to students globally, but so this is a global shout out actually. She posted this yesterday. UCR Extension is proud to announce we are partnering with UCR to bring the UC Bending the Curve curriculum to the community on a non-credit and fully online basis. So you can attend this class from anywhere online. This course will focus on scalable solutions for carbon neutrality and climate stability, drawing on knowledge and insights from climate scholars across the UC system. The class is originally based on 10 scalable solutions that arose from discussions involving 50 faculty from the 10 campus UC system under UC's Carbon Neutrality Initiative. This class consists of lectures from experts across the UC campuses and features the digital textbook Bending the Curve, Climate Change Solutions. On top of all of that, it is being taught by CE Certs Dr. Matt Barth. This is a great opportunity to find out what science has to say about this topic. So if anybody is interested in this or has a family member or somebody who is interested in taking this class, I am shouting this out to y'all. I will drop a link. The link is here. Hopefully I did that correctly. I can't drop it on the Rockfin right now, but I will. Anyways, what's up, people on Rockfin from part 2? Watching away. Let's keep going. So let's get into some political news. This is important, but what I wanted to do was bring up, kind of as a bridge to this mention of this story, which was posted by Nick Humphrey. He posted a couple stories that I'm going to look at today. But shout out to Nick Humphrey. Where is it? Oh, I got too many tabs. Oh my God. This is pretty much, I think everybody understands that this was a bad idea in the beginning, and it's still a bad idea. 50 years of tax cuts for rich didn't trickle down, study says. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, so this was all a big scam. We're going to cut taxes for the rich, and that's going to trickle down, while we hack away at services for the poor, and somehow all the money that the rich are going to generate is going to trickle down to the poor. Yeah. And again, this was passed and continues to be passed. They continue to do tax cuts for the rich. They continue to run this austerity government platform on the population, with the idea that these drivers of the economy are they're all driving the wealth, and the people are benefiting. And as we have seen many times over and over, the charts and the graphs and the data and the polls and the numbers and everything that says, no, the wealth gap has only gotten larger. The wealthy get wealthier, the poor get poorer. There's a bigger gap in between the wealthy and the poor. This money does not reach the poor. And all of this is enacted, written by, promoted by the people that run your country, and they're not your politicians, because the politicians are merely tools of the oligarchy. They're merely the bidders of the will of the corporations and the rich and the wealthy, and they were like, hey guys, what about this? Why don't you give us some tax cuts? And then, we'll give you some money, we'll help keep getting you elected, and then you give us more tax cuts, and we'll keep giving you more money, and you help us get elected, and that's going to be just a beautiful arrangement for all of us. Yeah. So yeah. Filed under the no duh, no duh section. Filed this under no duh, no shit. 50 years of tax cuts for the rich didn't trickle down. And if you think that the wealthy are going to relinquish their emissions anytime soon, or their goodies, or their playthings, or their hold on the power of the planet and the economy anytime soon, you're high. You're smoking the good stuff. Super high. Okay. Another one posted by Nick Humphrey. Shout out to Nick Humphrey. This is, again, more More evidence that your government doesn't care about you, doesn't give a shit about you. That is the entire government. That is two parties. That is a two-system oligarch party. I mean, two-party oligarch system. I know a lot of people want to blame this all on Trump and the Republicans, but the Democrats have a lot to do with this as well. They were playing the, they're playing good cop, bad cop on you. But shout out to Nick for posting this. Biggest housing crisis in our lifetime. Millions face eviction as moratorium set to expire. About one third of U.S. households say they're likely to face eviction or foreclosure in the next 2 months. That is insane. A third of U.S. households. I don't even know what the number, I can't even begin to fathom what that number is. We're a country of 350 million people or so, something like that, plus. How many households are in the U.S.? What's 1/3 of all the households in the U.S.? Mind-boggling. Meanwhile, still no stimulus passed, although they're saying that they're getting closer to agreeing on it. Ryan Bowser looked somber as he sat in his cramped Oregon apartment, worried whether he, his pregnant girlfriend, and her 10-year-old daughter would have a roof over their heads in the new year. The family is 3 months behind on the $1,165 rent. Ooh, and that's super cheap. If you live in LA, there are no apartments for that much money. They pay for their 2-bedroom unit in the college town of Corvallis. They are hoping Oregon extends its eviction moratorium until July 1st in a special legislative session next week. The proposal would also create $200 million fund mainly to compensate landlords. Well, I guess, but what about, do the people still get evicted? If passed, it would go further than a 1-month extension of federal eviction moratorium expected in a coronavirus relief package nearing consensus in Congress. We are forced to make decisions between which bills to pay, rent, car, or groceries, said Bowser. We don't know if we'll have a home next year. Holy shnikes. About 1/3 of U.S. households say they're behind on rent or mortgage payments and likely to face eviction or foreclosure in the next 2 months. This is insane. Eyes are on congressional leaders who are closing in on a massive COVID-19 relief package, including an extension of federal eviction moratorium until February. Until what? Until February? What? That's insane. Obviously I didn't read that part until now. An extension of the federal eviction moratorium until February. Well, that's going to help. Everybody's going to be out of the house in a month, in January. We'll extend it till February. Is that helpful? Does that work for you? Eviction moratoriums instituted by 44 states beginning in March have mostly expired. In response to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued the federal moratorium in September that broadly prevents evictions through the end of 2020. The nationwide directive was seen as the best hope to prevent more than 23 million renters from being displaced. 23 million. That is massive. Now some states want to extend eviction bans further than the federal government. Lawmakers in Democratic California are proposing their moratorium to last until 2022, as long as renters pay at least 25% of their rent and attest to financial hardship. Anyways, this is happening in the wealthiest country in the world. The wealthiest country on the planet cannot figure out how to give people enough money to live or how to keep people in their homes during a pandemic, can't figure out how to control the pandemic. Now, with all this, so many conflicting stories, issues, measures, thoughts, ideas, information around coronavirus lockdowns, what we're supposed to do, what we're allowed to do, what they're going to, what you're going to do to protect people. If you're not giving people anything, how do you expect people to stay home and stay locked down to help control, right? It's just kind of a logical idea that if you help people, if you tell people they need to stay home and stay locked down to control the coronavirus and you give them help, then they can do that. But a lot of people have given up listening to governments and or their governments, their state governments, because even people in California are out of their minds. And I wanted to play this for you because this is very interesting. There's a story coming out covered on Rising this morning. I'm going to play you this.
Washington Post reporter Jeff Stein just broke this story. President Trump was in the middle of formally drafting a demand for larger stimulus payments in the next relief bill when White House aides intervened on Thursday.
Oh my God. As of now, adults will receive somewhere around $600, an additional $600 per child. There will be no family cap on that amount. And adult dependents do qualify. That is different than what was in the CARES Act.
Really, we have seen almost no relief for the American people since March, despite the worsening pandemic. And a constellation of factors seems to finally be bringing lawmakers to actually getting something done.
Tell us about the advisors, and everybody wants to know name.
The president has wanted to send another round of stimulus checks since June. He's been adamant about that. He said it privately. He said basically that publicly.
So yeah, I just want to play you a little clip of that. Sorry if that was a little disjointed, but this, whatever you think about Trump, bad or good, and there's a lot of bad. He's been wanting to give people stimulus. He's been wanting to give people stimulus checks or get people extra money. He signed an extension of the unemployment benefits in August by executive order that helped some people continue to get, an increased amount of unemployment benefits. That has run out. He wanted to give people a standalone stimulus check bill before the election, and that was shot down. It was not agreed to. A lot of people blame Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats for not working to try and get a bigger stimulus done before the election because they didn't want to help Trump get reelected, et cetera, et cetera. It was all a lot of political shit. And I'm not saying that the Republicans' part of the bill was good at all, because I'm going to cover a little bit of the bullshit that Republicans have been trying to put in to these stimulus bills. But what it is a bipartisan clusterfuck. To put it, I can't put it any other way. It's a bipartisan clusterfuck. But this is like crazy because he was trying to get $2,000. Remember back when the CARES Act was passed, and everybody thought that Bernie Sanders had something to do with the $600 extra money that people were getting in unemployment. He had nothing to do with that. He actually wasn't part of that. It was actually other people and some Republicans and Trump who wanted the $600 in there, and that got passed and that got through. But there's been a lot, now there's this new stimulus package is going to be $300 a month if they agree to that, and Bernie Sanders is on good faith and is actually trying to get, and it seems like he's succeeded with Josh Hawley and getting some extra, like an actual stimulus check for the people in this bill. But this is a clusterfuck. Trump was trying to get a $2,000 stimulus check to people, and they're telling he got apparently nixed by some insiders or some aides or advisors or whatever. I don't know what the whole story is, but that's really ridiculous. Because for whatever reason maybe they didn't want to give people this money, or maybe they didn't want to give Trump a win, or I don't know what it is. Exactly. TCR Galaxy, $600 per child, helping out the prayers when they should be punished. Well, I don't know, man. I think people are hurting a lot. As I just read, a lot of people are hurting. This is just a crazy story, and it's an interesting story nonetheless. So whatever you think. Basil Peterson, you are free to live under the bridge and starve in the American dream. Right. So they're working on the stimulus. It's kind of a bullshit stimulus, and meanwhile, the Jimmy Dore story goes on, still has some legs, and we'll see if that even gets addressed. As far as Medicare for all being, somehow even getting a floor vote. Realize says Trump has the executive in the Senate. He can push through what he really wants to. I don't know. I think they were. What they were saying was he was trying to get it in the bill, and some other people came in and got in and ran around him and got it out. They said they couldn't get it in. I don't know. I don't know. Richard Monroe says 250 million times 2,000 equals 5 trillion. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Yeah. Yep. Not like they can't print it or they don't have it, because they got that kind of money for the banks and for the corporations. So, the excuse that it's too much money is not a valid one. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that Trump has enemies in the Senate, and Trump has enemies in his own party. So, and he has enemies, the people that are even in his administration. There are people that aren't helping him or don't like him. So, thanks for the heads up on the mic. So, yeah. Anyways, let's move on. To Brianna Joy Gray, tweeted this out. 88% of Dems support Medicare for all. Still staying on this subject of M4A getting a floor vote at least. The interesting thing is I have seen nothing. Not one thing. This is all over social media, all over YouTube, all over the progressive left media. The idea, Jimmy Dore pushing progressives to push Pelosi to get this floor vote. The interesting thing is the mainstream media is doing the ignore tactic, ignore Dore. So there's a couple of tactics that the mainstream media does for people they don't like or ideas they don't like. One is they ignore the idea altogether. They don't even act like it exists. And the other thing that they do, if that doesn't work, then they start smearing the person, Russian agent, a communist, socialist, whatever it is, bad person, sexist. Yeah. So, they haven't gotten there yet, but what they're doing is ignoring the whole thing, because I as big of a story as this has been in the last couple of days, still not one mainstream media outlet has picked this story up or has even mentioned it. So this is still something that totally lives on social media. Very interesting. Anyways, Brianna Joy Gray says 88% of Dems support Medicare for all. 14 million have lost their employer-based insurance. 300,000 have died of COVID. Biden and allies like James Clyburn, this is true story, take more big pharma insurance money than anyone in Congress. The media is silent. What's your plan to raise the alarm? Hashtag force the vote. So again, if you're in favor of this, please tweet at or message or call your representatives. Tweet at the progressives, force the vote, whatever it is you want to say to them about it. Nicholas Miller got a super chat from Nicholas Miller. Please support this, whether you like Jimmy Dore or not. It's a worthy thing to support. Nicholas Miller, thank you so much for the super chat. I think I might have gotten some other ones in here as well. If I missed it, I apologize. You can also tip me on Rockfin. And the cool thing about the tips on Rockfin is that they turn into cryptocurrency, which is super cool for me because the Rockfin cryptocurrency is getting bigger. Ryan Gorman, yes, you did find the link for the, although this says UCSD, which is UC San Diego. So it's ucr.edu, bending the curve, or something like that. I have the link somewhere. I'll try and post it on Rockfin later. But maybe that's the same. Maybe you can find the right link from there. But anyways, force the vote. Hashtag force the vote or hashtag hold the vote. You can tweet that out at your favorite progressive congressperson to try and get a floor vote. Try and push this idea of a floor vote for Medicare for all. Last thing. Oh, hold on one second. I'm trying to cover so many things that I got a little lost in the things that I am covering. But I'm about to wrap it up, guys. I'm getting towards the end. Interestingly, so I was saying that they're not covering this idea, that they'll force the vote idea. They're really not covering that, but there's an interesting thing coming out. Have you guys seen this story, the Russian hacking story? And a lot of people don't believe it. They think this is another like CIA operation. I've seen a lot of pushback from progressive media people, Aaron Mate, Glenn Greenwald. So Aaron Mate says the U.S. is under attack again by Russiagate. First sentence of this article proves many experts blame Russia. An acknowledgement that this isn't a proven fact. Article also notes that the president-elect did not pin blame on Russia. So there's this been this huge news story. Probably to gin up more, like, if you know, anything we don't like is a product of Russia. Can't you see how Russia is hacking us? Can't you see how Russia is a huge threat to our government and our society? Can't you see that Russia is pushing these crazy ideas on people? Glenn Greenwald retweets this and says, it's stunning that most media outlets are just stating flatly and without caveats that Russia was behind the latest hack. But when you press them, they'll admit they have no evidence that it's true. Even if you think Russia did it, of course they may have. This is disturbing. Yeah, this is kind of like, you know, again, like Russiagate, again, like the Russian bounty story. Oh my God. And I've already seen people all over Twitter, oh my God, you guys know, you know, can't you see this is happening? It's Russians. We knew all along the Russians are trying to infiltrate our government. Why is this? This is happening just as a. I don't see the end goal in this, in this story, but there is an end goal. The end goal being to disavow, to debunk, to thwart any kind of challenge to the Biden presidency or the Biden administration or the Democrats, right? So. Mark my words, this is going to be used. Right now it's being used to kind of, I think to kind of like do a little bit of excuse me, to kind of get people off of there's a lot of attention on this Medicare for All story and Jimmy Dore, and all of a sudden this Russian hack story comes out, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, I'm worried about the Russians now. Let's not pay attention to the stimulus bill. Let's not discuss what's happening with the stimulus bill and the evictions and a Medicare for All vote. Let's not, let's really be worried about Russians hacking our government, because there's this huge threat. Oh, Russia. It's just a good blanket, like a blanket story to kind of like knock everything else out of the headlines, and to gin up this fear of the other. And, oh, here they come. The Russians are coming. The terrorists are coming. The bad people are coming. And if we don't like you or your ideas or any, if you're a threat on any level to the supremacy of the oligarchs and the corporations and the people people running our country, if you're a threat in any way, you're in cahoots with the bad people, the Russians, the terrorists, the people that are coming to get us, right? That's just my zoom out position. My zoom out take on that whole story. But anyways, it's interesting that this is coming out now, and it seems to be, of course, gathering a lot of steam in the media. Do we still have crackles? Are you serious? I thought I fixed that. I thought I fixed the crackles. Sorry. Is it really bad? One thing, if it's not one crackle, it's another. All right, you guys, cool. You guys are so helpful on Rockfin. Got people hanging out with me on Rockfin. Poppy Davis, Sweet Leaf, Ryan Gorman, Osama. All the cool Rockfin folks are hanging out with me for part 2 of Gaslight Friday. And for my YouTubers, 60 hanging out on part 2. 28 likes. Please like up the video. Sorry about the crackles. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I just spend all day chasing down technical issues. Oh, I see. Oh, you know what? I was seeing old crackles. Ah, geez. Anyways. Poppy Davis, Russian gaslighting, yes. Realize says burn it down. TCR probably to create distractions to the ongoing planetary overshoot mass extinction fiasco. You know that thing? That whole thing. Ah, yes. Yeah, I tweeted out something about force the vote because, there's this whole idea that, people proposing that Jimmy Dore is mean, or the people proposing this are mean, or, oh my God, you're it's just so, the tone is not right. People saying bad things about, people being mean and saying, nasty things about the politicians who are supposed to serve us is somehow really wrong. And I'm like, I tweeted out something like, you have people out here kind of openly discussing the idea of guillotines, right? Like I'm not discussing the idea of guillotines. I don't want to see violence necessarily. I'm not proposing that that's going to be the answer to our problems. But, people are really upset. And Kuro, yeah, good comment. Kuro says, I'm ungovernable. How about you? People who are about to lose their home get their torches and pitchforks and let loose the fury of Armageddon onto the streets of Washington. So, I mean, what I'm saying is this, that people are pissed and people are in a bad place, and the government has helped to push people into this bad, bad place by not hearing them or listening to them or helping them. And you have this growing sentiment of anger towards the people in power. And people are very angry, right? And so you have people worrying about, tone policing people. People are just on social media saying like, hey, let's force this vote on Medicare for all. Let's force Nancy Pelosi to do it. Come on. Do your job. Get it together. Let's do this. Let's exert a little bit of political will and pressure. But people are saying that political will and pressure is just so angry and so mean. And so how dare you? Like, look, man, if you don't exert a little bit of political pressure or will, or a little bit of, oh my God, political pressure on social media. Oh my God. How dare you speak up and speak forcefully on social media about this idea? How uncouth, how uncivilized, how inappropriate. Golly gee, if you don't do that, if you don't do a little bit of inappropriateness on social media, what's going to happen is you're going to have some hella inappropriateness going on in the streets, right? You're going to have some serious meanness and nastiness and uncouthness and uncivility or incivility in the streets, right? If you don't do a little bit of that on social media, oh my God, oh, the outrage, the pearl clutching, oh, right? So, people who are, against this idea, or who think it's really bad or so mean, or, oh my God, get your minds right. Get your minds right about what is, what could be the potential upshot of, not listening to people or not hearing people or not doing the will of the American people, not helping people out, not giving people assistance, letting people get evicted, letting people go hungry. I just saw a news story about truck drivers who have jobs, who are delivering goods. They're essential workers. People setting up food banks and toy drives, doing toy drives and food drives for Christmas for truck drivers. People who shouldn't have to actually be asking for assistance because they're essential workers. Nicholas Miller, thanks again for the super chat. He says, my Mexican machete-wielding brothers are every bit as good as guillotines. Yeah. Yes. Right? So people are pissed. You're gonna see much worse than like some bad language on YouTube. You're gonna see much worse than some mean tweets on Twitter. Oh. You're gonna see much worse than a little bit of disrespect on the social medias, right? So get your mind right and get over your civility politics and get over your like, oh my God, how could you? It's the right thing to do. It's the right time. Let's start pressuring some politicians to give us the things that we need. And let's start getting a little bit mean about it, Let's start raising our voices and getting a little bit angry about it. And, there have been people in the streets already this year. Not like that can't happen again. Lockdown or not, stay-at-home order or not, you think you won't see people in the streets again when people start getting evicted by the millions? Yeah. Realize says there are people fighting in this country. It's not televised, and then there's that too, right? That goes along with the just ignore it tactic by the mainstream media, right? One of the tactics is just ignore the whole thing is happening. If you don't report on it, it's not really actually happening, right? If you don't make it news, it's not happening. If you don't bring any attention to it, they've got that one down. But then if people do pay attention to stuff, then they start smearing you, saying that somehow it's the result of terrorists or Russians or communists or socialists or bad people or mean people or racists or sexist, blah, 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 blah. Right? I mean, if you can convince people that Bernie Sanders, one of the most decent people, whatever you think about Bernie Sanders is a hell of a nice person. He's a decent, nice guy. And he's, you know, if you can convince people that he's racist and sexist, then, you know, then your work is done here, right? Kuro hikes, if they think that is angry, they ain't seen nothing yet. Indeed. Indeed. Creative experiments. David Sirota thinks you can lead a peaceful revolution with committee assignments. Right. You know, again, if you just ask nicely, if you just ask in the right way, if you just, you know, find the right combination of words, you're, you know, well, you didn't ask like that. Well, here you go. Right? If you just get enough people in the right places, you know it's a good time for Medicare for all. Nope, not going to happen. You're going to have to make people uncomfortable. You're going to have to piss off people. You're going to, you know, you're going to have to get people in high places really super angry at you, because that's what's going to happen when you threaten the power structure. Anyways, gritty chops, we don't need nice people, we need effective people. Ding, ding, ding. Jazz Farm, a reason for no Medicare for all means that it will give basic medical care to brown people. Oh, I get it. Okay, can't have that. Right. Well, it's too late for me to cover this other story, but I wanted to kind of tie something in with this language that they keep talking about with, you know, with the Great Reset and the Green New Deal, equity. Well, you know, while they're doing all this equity wording, they're cutting, like in the new stimulus package, part of the thing that the Republicans have proposed is gutting some workers' rights and civil rights, right? They're gutting some very old language in civil rights acts and workers' rights acts, things that have been around for decades and decades. They're putting language in this new stimulus bill to gut some of these. So this whole time they're like, oh, equity, you know, right? Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to help people, and it's going to be equitable. You know, the Army general who was like, we're going to deliver this vaccine. It's going to be equitable. Equity. Meanwhile, they're cutting civil rights and workers' rights out of, you know, they're giving corporations indemnity, and you know they're allowing corporations to tread on your civil rights and your workers' rights in this new stimulus package. Oh, equity, right? Bullshit. Cure Hike, stop asking, start taking. Indeed. Cure Hike says, I'm stuck here in Redneckistan, where I could kind of be anywhere, honestly. Yes. Anyways. Say what? All right. I got to get out of here. Robert Araujo. That's interesting, though. Chile and South Korea both attacked Chinese fishing fleets off their shores. Whoa. Well, I'm going to have to look at that. I can't really cover that right now because I've got to go, guys. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Thanks for joining me 2 times in the Gaslight Friday hiccup. Ryan Gorman, how dare Jimmy yell about issues of life and death? Exactly. Oh my God, you're saying, you know, I'm more concerned about your language than I am about the fact that people are dying from no medical care. Because, you know, I have my priorities straight. Anyways, thanks, guys. I appreciate you. I'll see you back here tomorrow at the regular time of 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until next time, peace.